The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC.
Hey everyone! Get in here! Ready for action! I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is the Angry Chicken.
Greetings and welcome back, everyone. This is the Angry Chicken. I'm Garrett Whitenzorl. She's Jocelyn Moffat, and Willie Dill sadly could not join us today, but he should probably maybe be back, hopefully tomorrow. I saw his flight getting delayed, so that might not even happen as well. How you doing, Joss?
I'm not too shabby. Still trying to kick this cold, though. My throat is killing me. I don't understand. I just want to be healthy for BlizzCon.
I'm so sorry to hear that, but that is the upside, right? At least you got sick so far out from BlizzCon that, well, worst case scenario, you just got a cough. You can live with a cough.
True.
At least you're not cripplingly just ill.
True.
You're ill like in a cool rap hip hop way, but not in.
I don't really think I'm rap hip hop anything, Garrett. I hate to burst your bubble.
Well, I mean, you're just selling yourself short at that point. But yeah, we're back for another episode. And right off the bat, I want to remind our patrons, by the way, also should thank them right off the bat. Thank you so much to our patrons supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. You're our bosses, man. You're our bosses. And I've never had, I'm trying to find a very specific number. I've never had over 300 so many nice bosses before. At most, I've had two bosses at the same time, and they were both very mean. It's over 300. Sorry, over 500. We have over 500.
I was like 300.
Amazing.
That seems a little bit low, but I mean, I assume you have the number in front of you.
Yeah, it wasn't loading fast enough, so I was like, 300 sounds safe. That's a safe bet. No, it's over 500 bosses, Jocelyn, and you guys are so nice. You give us time off for the holidays to go spend time with our family, and you let us talk about a card game every week, and that's just phenomenal. But for those of you who are supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC, tomorrow is going to be our patron hangout for this month because BlizzCon is next week, and we thought we had another week to give you guys a little more time, but then we're like, oh crap, we're all getting on planes.
Yeah. So a little bit short notice, but I think it's going to be great. We have some really cool stuff to talk about. We have some stuff that we're going to talk about later on in the news section that is actually coming from one of our patrons who's participated in our taco tournaments that we do for patrons as well. So I'm sure we've got a lot to talk about with you guys tomorrow. So just make sure that you are available at 4 p.m. Eastern to give us a shout.
Absolutely. So yeah, again, 4 p.m. tomorrow, and details are over at patreon.com/TAC. You have to be a patron to see the details. That's how it works. It's really simple. You just call in via Skype. So go find the info over there. But how's your Hearthstone week treating you, Joss?
It's actually been not too bad. I finally broke down and stopped playing a Death Rattle N'Zoth Hunter and switched over to Secret Hunter, and it's a lot more fun than I thought. It's also a lot more consistent than I thought, so...
I do really like Death Rattle Hunter a lot still, though. Ever since you recommended it, God, like 2 months ago, that's still my comfort Hunter pick. It's like, oh, I want to play some Hunter. Let me dust off the Death Rattle deck.
Yeah, the Death Rattle deck is really good, I think, at all different levels of the ladder, just because it is so consistent. But Secret Hunter, at least right now, while it's still being refined, I think it's not as consistent as it should be, but it's really powerful because people still, struggle to play around it sometimes. So I think it definitely has its strengths. It was performing for me pretty well over the weekend, but Death Rattle Hunter I think is one of those things that's going to become just a staple as like the way to play as long as we have access to N'Zoth. So,
well, I saw 2 Malchezaar warriors over the weekend, and I lost to both of them.
I saw Malchezaar in a priest, in a mage, in a warrior. I feel like there was possibly even a Malchezaar rogue, and I was like, why are all you people playing this card? It's terrible.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, I saw a Malchezaar mage, which I think could have been a Reno mage, because I never saw more than one of a copy of anything, but I just ran over the Malchezaar mage, so I'll never know. Which I'm also thinking Malchezaar or Reno, it's a relatively safe bet because pretty low chance he's going to put duplicates in your deck, but there is a chance you'll get duplicates.
Wouldn't it be really funny if it duplicated Reno?
Yeah, or
One
Malchezaar.
of the 5 legendaries.
It can duplicate itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been seeing some weird Malchezaar decks. That was the big thing that surprised the living hell out of me. Was seeing multiple Malchezaar warriors over the weekend and didn't do well. Lost pretty badly. I've been doing a little better about keeping notes though about my games, and the both warrior Malchezaar games I ran into were pretty rough draws for me. Yes, It turns out mid-range shaman can have bad draws.
Only for you, Garrett. Only for you.
Yes, but they weren't all bad. I think I went. Let's see. I kept tabs of my Sunday 10 games. I went 4. I went 6-4. So it's all right. Still in the green. But
Chat room is currently saying you can't get duplicates from Malchezaar.
Oh, you can't.
Only puts cards into your deck that are not currently in your deck, so it will work with Reno.
But can it duplicate the cards that it puts in your deck? Huh.
I don't know.
Huh. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't play him because it's inconsistent.
Yeah, it seems like a silly idea. Basically, we've talked about Malchezaar before where, not only are the legendaries that you get random, so there's, no guarantee that you're actually going to get 5 good cards, but on top of that, it thins out your deck, makes your deck, I guess, thicker and basically makes it harder for you to get to the point of your deck because you have those 5 extra cards that you have to draw before you draw through the things that are going to play into your strategy. So that's why we've talked about Malchezaar being a bad card. So apparently you can play it with Reno and that's fine.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, he is a fun card, and I think that's the point.
Yes, yeah.
He is silly. But that's the strange things I noticed while playing over the weekend. Oh, and I also went up against my first Concede Shaman. I don't know if you went back and listened to the episode where AP Drop guested on while you were really sick, but he came on and talked about his Concede Shaman deck. And it was a Shaman versus Shaman because I've just been playing Shaman, and I'm just like, okay, well, did he just get a really bad draw? What is he doing? Because I didn't see a Trog come down, I didn't see anything come out early. And then I saw, now this one wasn't running 1-to-1 AP Drop's deck, because the first thing that came out that just made me go, what? Was Farsight. Farsight came out, and I'm like, okay. And then I saw Stormcrack, and then I saw Cairn, and then I saw Elemental Destruction, and I lost horribly. I was just like, I can't come back. He killed everything multiple times. So that was the most interesting loss I've had in a long time. So, but anyways, so that's what's been going on with me. But there's also a lot going on just in the world of Hearthstone. So let's get into this week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone!
Jocelyn, 2 weeks in a row now, we've had news drop the day before the Angry Chicken.
It's madness. I don't understand.
It's absolute madness. It's bedlam. I don't know. I'm not used to this. I'm used to having days upon days to prepare to talk about what's going on. Usually 7 of them, exactly. Or at least 6. But we've been getting Gadgetzan hints over the past few days. It started with a Gadgetzan postcard being posted to the Hearthstone Twitter. And today we got a front page of what looks like a goblin newspaper called the Gadgetzan Gazette. It's a full article about a new bank being opened in Gadgetzan. You can read it. It is legible. It has very entertaining ads also. But what I found the most interesting about this newspaper piece was in the ads was an ad for a tavern, not the Hearthstone Tavern, one run by a goblin named Talon, and it had a Blizzly link that takes you to Facebook Messenger to talk to Talon, and it works. You can go to that link, like right now. You can go read that. It's Talon's Bar, and it's blizz.ly/Talon's Bar, TALANSBAR. And you get to have a conversation with Talon, the barkeep of the aptly named bar. And I did this, Jocelyn, and I'm fairly certain I'm fairly certain that on this on this show, I have talked about my hatred of Facebook promotions. So I feel like I am predisposed to hate this like crazy, but I loved it. I was way too entertained talking to this fake goblin in Facebook Messenger.
I feel really bad because I typed it into chat so that chat could go play with it, except I put X's instead of Z's in Blizz by accident. I just mistyped because I wasn't paying attention. And I was like, oh god, no, chat room, don't click on that. I don't know where that might send you.
Too many X's. Who knows what will happen?
Yeah, exactly. Always beware of the X's on the internet.
Oh no, sexy goblins. What am I going to do?
It's the special upstairs, like, brothel part of Talon's Bar.
Okay, okay. Full disclosure: 2 hours before we sat down to do this, we just did an episode of Embrace the Spoilers for Westworld, so we might have brothels on the mind, both of us. So I'm standing in solidarity with Jocelyn's brothel references. Anyways, so you can talk to Talon. It's randomized based on what you say to him, and you also get multiple choice questions from him, and it goes off in different ways. But if you're watching the video version, I'm going to swap over now to our image overlay, where he has to make you a drink, and you can it's not multiple choice, so you can kind of say whatever you want to him. So I'm not exactly sure 100% how it works, like what you have to say to get what drink. But he asked what I wanted in my drink, and I told him I wanted Murloc rum because that sounded like something that would exist. And he said, what kind of 4-star establishment do you think this is? I don't have anything that good. And he made me the Conjured Firewater. But you also had the potential to get the Defias Dead Mind, not mine, which I love that play on Warcraft words. The Elixir of Power, which looks like a very delicious martini minus the eyeballs on a wooden stick.
That is totally the one that I want.
I kind of want it too. And then the Pirate's Socket, which looks like a paint can.
It really does. I love how the splashes are like skulls, though. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the artwork is on point, as it always is with the Hearthstone properties. But I love the glass the Elixir of Power comes in. It looks like it's like crystal, but like it's like crystals from a mine crystal. It's
fantastic. It's absolutely great. But this has to be pointing towards the next expansion, right? Like, this seems like a lot of effort for just a fun thing, and it is fun. I'm having a blast with this role play of Talon's Bar and Gadgetzan, and he's very hipster. He's got the hipster mustache, like he should be making old fashions in a speakeasy. But this key art, like this reminds me of Spare Parts or the Poisons in Rogue.
Yeah.
Like this has to be key art for new cards that are, I'm assuming, going to be announced at BlizzCon. What do you think, Joss?
Yeah, I think you're definitely on the right track. That was my first thought when I saw these drinks as well, is that this reminds me of Poisons and Spare Parts, and I think that we're probably going to potentially even get Talon the bartender as a legendary who gives you one of these drinks, and they have different potential powers. Maybe like Elixir Power gives you spell power, Fire Water is like a damage spell, Dead Mind is maybe draw a card or something. I can see something like that coming. To me, this looks like some sort of like you mentioned, the speakeasy thing, some sort of like maybe 50s gang type gangster stuff. There's also what looks like, because there's a couple of different images that you can get that were shown on the Hearthhead website, because obviously they have a big post about all this. And one of the images is like, almost looks like an underground like arena, like a fighting kind of like, not necessarily cockfights, but like some underground fighting organization, which also kind of evokes the Brawlers Guild from World of Warcraft. So I'm kind of wondering if we're going to get some sort of like gangster type, old timey.
I've actually got this. Yeah, I've got those images to show. There were 4, I guess, total images at least that have been uncovered. Maybe somebody out there missed the magic word to find a 5th or a 6th. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the bartender's he asks you, "Are you here for the skeleton?" And I guess if you say yes, he shows you a picture of the skeleton he's talking about. But there's other things he can start rambling on about. He complains about new businesses opening up, and he shows his blood elf mage in front of some new shop, and he's like, "Look at this guy. You think he's a businessman?" Like. Again, there's no actual VO. I just can't help but hear goblin voices in my head. But
But yeah, the one I was specifically talking about, if you're looking at the overlay, is the one in the bottom left, which is showing the kind of the Pandaren, the real evil looking Pandaren, because normally they're super cuddly, but she looks pretty
I
badass.
love the way she's drawn. It looks like something out of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, I really dig it. And yeah,
And chat room is currently saying it's illegal Murloc fights or illegal pet battling.
Oh no!
Which I love all of these ideas.
Do you like? Okay, just real. Jocelyn approves of illegal animal fights. Just
Oh my god.
confirmed on this episode of The Angry Chicken.
Murloc fights in a fantasy game or pet battles which already exist.
I'm just saying. I'm just pointing that out to the viewing public. Yeah, we also get a look at the bank manager of the bank that is the topic of the entire article that's on the official Hearthstone page. So he's this, I love this ogre, and I love his outfit. It's fantastic.
I love the dressing half and half. Like half for one head, wants to be fancy with a suit and tie, and then the other guy's like, no, I just need a vest, I'm good.
Yeah, so there's so many places this could go. There seems to be, when you talk to Talon in the Facebook Messenger, an overemphasis on like posses or gangs. Because he asks you, like, you know, what would you do in an altercation? Would you get your buddies together? And he talks about other groups banding together, and kind of seems like he's alluding to there being trouble. So I'm getting like a gangster, maybe a bank heist type vibe potentially for the next expansion.
Yeah, I think, and chat room is asking us right now, and I feel like this is tied to the next expansion. We are very, very close to BlizzCon now. We're only a couple of weeks away. So, well, actually, a week and a half, I guess, from November 4th, which is when the next expansion is going to be announced. So I think that's what this is ramping up to. I don't think that there's any chance that they put this, because the other kind of option, the other thing that people have been floating is the idea that it has to do with the Heroic Tavern Brawl. And I think, like, we had the Heroic Tavern Brawl announcement already. It didn't seem to have any special flavor. It's just a 1-week brawl. This isn't a new mode or anything. Like, this is way too much effort to put into announcing the Tavern Brawl for this week. This is, I think, tied to BlizzCon and the next expansion. I don't think there's any doubt to that.
Yeah, which, oddly enough, goes against every leak I've already heard about. So, yeah, this is nowhere on the radar of leaks I've heard about, but...
Which, and this makes me happy, actually, that it seems to be, although, like, when I first heard Gadgetzan, I was like, oh my god, like, GG again. Like, we already did goblins, we already did gnomes, I get it. Like, no, I don't want to do that again. But it seems like what they're doing is they're taking Gadgetzan, because some of the, like, goblin and gnome places are known to be a little bit more on the sketchy side. So they're taking that and they're making it Hearthstone, which was my big problem with Karazhan. Even though it was a Hearthstone twist on Karazhan, it was still way too close to what the raid had been like. And after they thought outside the box with League of Explorers, I was disappointed in Karazhan just for that reason. So I love the idea that it looks like for this expansion, we're not just going to get some sort of a reimagined, you know, raid theme type thing. They're, again, taking a location, so like something that exists in Warcraft, but then they are making something entirely new. Like, there is no real like there's pirates in Warcraft, but I can't think of a faction that is kind of like mob bosses and gangstery. Can you? Like, I know we have Gallywix, and he's kind of gangstery.
Gallywix is gangstery, very much so, and especially if you play through the Goblin starting zone.
Which I have not done. I only made it through like 2 levels of the Goblin starting zone, and I went, I cannot take this Jersey Shore stuff. I just can't.
What? It's so good.
No,
it's so good. It's so that's. See, now I understand why you're not a fan of our Goblin correspondent that we'll hear from at the end of the show. Now I get it. Stick around for the end of the show, guys. I did something real dumb. But
that's an understatement. You guys don't even understand.
I really love the Goblin starting zone back at this. God, that was Cataclysm. But they know they have this it's very like skeezy New Yorker pseudo mob. Like, that's the whole spiel with goblins, at least post Cataclysm. So it makes complete sense to me that Gadgetzan is like one of the things I got so excited about when I originally played in Vanilla WoW, because it was like coming across Mos Eisley randomly in my Warcraft MMO. Oh wow. Good God, Jocelyn, how are we friends? How? It is a wretched hive of scum and villainy from Star Wars A New Hope, where Luke and Obi-Wan contract Han Solo to fly them in the Millennium Falcon, the vessel that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. Come on! Anyways.
Oh, guys, you have no idea how much pleasure I get from this.
I love the grin on your face right now.
Mm-hmm. I legit didn't know what it was, but I'm so glad that it just, flips Garrett's nerd switch.
Oh, just hard, in the wrong direction. But that's the theme behind Gadgetzan. It's kind of this place that's kind of sketchy. It's not run by really the Alliance or the Horde. It's just the Goblins' own little place where they can, turn a cheap, a quick buck. So, I would, I had a very similar reaction that you do when I heard about Gadgetzan as well. I'm like, oh no, not Goblins again. It hasn't been that long.
It's only been, yeah.
It'll be 2 years, pretty much to the day, going into this BlizzCon since GVG was announced. So, but at the same time, I like this flavor. I really like the art that they've done for whatever this little teaser is. I guess there's always a 1% chance that this is just throwing us off the scent, but I'm sure it's tied in some way because
I think it's way too much work too. They programmed a Facebook message bot.
Yeah.
It's way too much effort to be a spoof.
Yeah, but where it's sorry, I'm laughing at the chat room right now.
GVG remastered. It'd be really funny if we got Schmiloted Shredder or something like that.
Oh god! And it's just a balanced version of Piloted Shredder. No, that would be awful. Please, God, no, don't do that. But yeah, I like the flavor they're going with here. If it is going to be this kind of World of Warcraft mob expansion, sign me up. But also, if you remember, Joss, I'm wondering, are they throwing us off the scent a little bit? Is this related, but not directly? Because you remember the leak before Old Gods on the Brazilian Hearthstone Facebook page, where they had the Old Gods travel agency, and it was all these different locations of the Nazaroth, and we're like, oh, these are going to be the expansion, because there was one for Ice Crown. We're like, oh, maybe it'll be a multi-location expansion, and Ice Crown's going to be one of them. And we were so focused on the travel agency and the destinations that we didn't pay any attention to the Old Gods on the headline.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm wondering. I'm looking at this, I'm like, are they is there a through line in this I'm not seeing? But I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think we're more focused on the big picture this time, which seems to be the kind of mob stuff. Although I guess you could say that the gang mob vibe is kind of the same as the travel agency vibe, maybe, in which case what we would be quote unquote missing would be the fact that Gadgetzan is all over it. So I mean, maybe it's just Talon's bar, maybe it's Gadgetzan. I think that Talon's going to be a legendary with all of his drinks. I think that would be great. But I don't know. I don't know what it would be that we're missing, which I guess is kind of the point. But this seems fairly straightforward, and it helps that it's kind of from the main Hearthstone site as opposed to a not necessarily subsidiary. That's the wrong word, but it's from the official U.S. BattleNet Hearthstone site.
It's not a satellite.
Yeah, exactly. It's not some other little smaller Blizzard office in a different country doing their own kind of PR, just kind of marketing. It's different this time, I think.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks. But as far as teases and stuff like that goes, I'm really enjoying this one. If this is the direction they're going, I'm down, man. I like the look of this.
This reminds me a lot of actually the GVG stuff that we saw, with those little all the postcards of there was one of the Harvest Golem, there was one of the Demolisher, and they got sent out to the press. That's kind of what this reminds me of, because there was 3 or 4 of those come see my invention or whatever with kind of black and white, or I think they were what's that filter called that's kind of all the different tones of brown. anyways, doesn't matter. It was kind of that kind of a toned. It wasn't big color. It wasn't anything else. And that's what this reminds me of very, very much, is those 3 or 4 iterations on cards we'd already seen. This isn't necessarily art that we've already seen, but it definitely is teaser images. Like, there's probably enough here that once we know what the expansion is, when we go back and look at this, we'll be like, oh yeah, you can see like this here and this here and this here. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that it's damn, I totally lost my point because I'm about to cough. Hang on.
Yeah, that's quite all right. Oh, just
Sorry, chat room's telling me they were blueprints. So yeah, but that teaser from Goblins versus Gnomes, this reminds me a lot of that, saying like, here's a few images that are going to make sense, but you're probably not going to be able to guess where we're going with this right at this second.
Yeah. I forgot about those blueprints entirely. Probably would have remembered them better if we got sent some. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Team 5.
But yeah, like even if you look at the bank vault on the actual Gadgetzan newspaper that they put out, that looks so much like a card back.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's door shaped with the Hearthstone swirl on it. I mean,
yeah.
Doors are rectangles. I saw that. I read that in, I think it was Hearthhead, and I'm just like, yeah, it also just looks like a door that has the Hearthstone logo on it.
But at the same time, vaults are usually either circles, which would have made sense because like the Hearthstone logo is very circular, so you could have done a circular door, just like, even if you look at the box below me, there's a big circle that looks like a Hearthstone. You could have done something like that. Vault doors, I think, usually are either really big squares or big circles. So I think the fact that this is like, it looks like a door, it's the Hearthstone card shape, I think that this looks more like a card back to me, like they're hinting at a card back.
Yeah, well, well, it doesn't. Well, I would like to see it as a card back, but it doesn't follow their rules for card backs so far.
That's true.
Their card backs are mirrored from top to bottom. For the most part, there's usually the only thing that's usually not symmetrical is the swirl.
Yeah, but maybe they're breaking the mold. Maybe this is the expansion where they do things differently. They've been kind of doing a lot of things a little bit differently lately. So
yeah, they have. If that turns out to be a card back, sign me up. But it also looks like a Hearthstone themed vault door. So, also, I mean,
ooh, actually, chat room. Sorry, Garrett, I didn't mean to cut you off. Like, maybe it's not the card back. Maybe it's the card pack, as chat room is currently pointing out.
Oh, you know, that's way more likely.
Spins, yeah,
way more likely, because it has the band, and all the card packs have had some sort of band-like thing, I believe. Well, actually, no. Did Old Gods? I can't actually remember what Old Gods looks like right now.
Old Gods had like some sort of something because it tried to open and pop the eyeball. So there was something wrapped around the eyeball.
They're tentacles. They're tentacles. So
I was like, I can't remember what it was, if it was slime or tentacles, but something made the eyeball pop off into your screen.
Yeah, they're tentacles
like right
that
in your face.
Are in a band-like formation. So yeah, no, it keeps running with the band. Theme.
So I think maybe this is the actual card pack as opposed to the card back.
Yeah, and TGT had a band, and I can't remember GVG off the top of my head, but I'm just gonna say I'm correct in that all card packs have had a band at some point. So yeah, I think it's chat room. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in the TAC audience.
Chat room is also bringing up the fact that it says today's edition right at the top, and then it says volume 32, number 7. So wondering if this is hinting potentially at a release date, because I believe that November is season 32 of Hearthstone. Hearthstone ranked play, I think. And then if that is the case, then is it hinting at November 7th? For a release date, which would be the Tuesday after BlizzCon. Do you think that they would give us that kind of information in a way that is potentially decodable and would ruin their kind of shock value?
Not necessarily. I think it's innocuous enough, and it's 2 weeks away. So if they're going to give us a release date, and it's that quickly, which would be in line with what they did last year with League of Explorers, although I would argue that was an adventure, this is an expansion. I could see them waiting a little longer. I think it's fine, and it's okay. However, I think if anyone who says, oh, well, that's the day the new season starts, so we're going to get a new expansion, I mean, like, when has that ever happened? We've never gotten a release in line with a new season. So that's like...
Well, yeah, but this wouldn't be the day that the new season starts November 1st.
Oh, you're right. I'm done. Never mind.
I was like,
sorry.
It doesn't start in the middle of the month. But I'm wondering, like, we talked about how they've been doing some things a little bit differently lately. Stuff like the fact that they even had card nerfs recently, some little changes that they've been making in patches and stuff. They seem to be doing things a little bit differently and experimenting. Heroic Tavern Brawl is another thing that they're kind of experimenting with, giving the competitive crowd somewhere to do the high risk, high reward type of a play style. So I'm kind of wondering, maybe this is them experimenting with what would happen and how the community and how the pro scene would react, given that it's after BlizzCon. So the really big stake tournament is done. And so it's not going to really mess with anything in that way. But I'm wondering if this is them experimenting, because we've said so many times, and we're not the only ones who've said this, that we hate the drip feed. So I wonder if they're just going to say, okay, fine, you want all the cards at once? We're going to do a League of Explorers style, like Ben Brode with a safari hat. We're going to get up on stage and be like, all right, here's your next expansion, Shabla, and you can find all of the cards at battle.net, and it's coming out on Tuesday.
Yeah, that would that would be pretty great. And also, if that means that, like, what's happening right now with the Talon thing is their new way to kind of build up hype, I'm all in. Cool.
Yeah.
Go that route. Let's do that. And then just show us all the damn cards once you announce the expansion. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I don't know. November 7th, sure, why not? It also could just be completely random numbers just for the sake of making it look more like a newspaper.
Yeah, that is true. But I don't know. I feel like, and obviously I think we talked off air about what Overwatch is doing right now with Sombra. All of that kind of like...
the ARGs that have been going on for half a year now. Yeah, that's...
So, and I know you're really frustrated with it in Overwatch, but I'm wondering if they're maybe taking a page from Overwatch's book and saying, like, okay, maybe we will try, because the community keeps saying we don't communicate enough, we don't do enough. Maybe we will try just giving them a little bit of information, and we'll reward people who are looking at it this deeply, and we'll reward them by giving them a hint towards the release date. Because obviously we're not going to know one way or another if it's right until the BlizzCon announcement. So, I mean, it doesn't... Then you have people who are going to be like, oh my God, it's Tuesday. And then there's going to be other people going like, oh my God, I figured it out. It was Tuesday. Like, I don't really think there's a way that they could go wrong with hinting at a release date. But, and I shouldn't do oh my God.
Oh, poor, sick Jocelyn. Yeah, I don't know. I'm all for it. This is just tinfoil hat party as far as we're concerned, right? Like, we could be completely wrong. The experience could end up being some completely different. This is all the throws out the scent, but it seems unlikely, right?
It seems like way
unlikely.
Too much work just to throw people off the scent. I mean, you could release one kind of image, even just the Gadgetzan, the postcard thing. They could have put that out, and that would have been enough to kind of send people off in a different direction than some of the rumors we've heard. So I feel like this is just too much. This is way too much effort to be throwing it off the scent as opposed to a tease.
Yeah. Well, time will tell. I'm excited, Joss. I'm getting excited for BlizzCon again.
Yeah.
Well, Hearthstone specifically.
Okay. I was like, I never stop being excited for BlizzCon. What's wrong with you?
At some point, I believe on this very show, we both agreed that we'd be kind of let down if the only thing that was announced was an expansion.
Oh, it's true. It's very true. I'm still hoping that we get more than an expansion, but I'm still excited about BlizzCon as a whole.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. What I meant to say was Hearthstone,
which is why I was so confused by your comment.
Yeah, no. I'm always. I enjoyed what was it, 2010 with the Geek Is presentation when they had nothing to announce. I had a blast at that BlizzCon. So I'm always excited for BlizzCon because at the very least, it's a bunch of alcohol with people I love and Korean barbecue. So, I mean, honestly, we could go out for that. We don't even need to go to the Anaheim Convention Center and put this all on. I will come out just for drinks and Korean barbecue if anyone wants to. FYI. But I think I think we can wrap it up there. Our tinfoil hat theories. I'm running dry on where I think this is heading. I think it's going to be a gang Gadgetzan themed expansion.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that's the way they're taking it, and I think it's gonna be really cool. Like I said, I'm glad that they look like, it looks like they are, instead of just ripping, mobs and spells and stuff like that from Warcraft in a specific location within Warcraft. I love that they're potentially inventing a new space within the Warcraft world. So I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I just thought of one last thing. Jocelyn.
Garrett.
You know how they like getting funky with their reveal cinematics, right? We had like the disco theme for Karazhan.
Mm-hmm.
We had like the cheesy Indiana Jones theme. I know you don't know what that is, but just bear with me here for League of Explorers.
Yep.
What if it is a heist of the Gadgetzan Bank and they go with an Ocean's 11 theme with the good funky Ocean's 11 music, and it's like you're putting together your heist team?
That's a movie I've seen.
Yeah, you've seen an Ocean's 11, but you haven't seen Indiana Jones, and you don't know what Mos Eisley is. You're so unique, Jocelyn.
I know. I am a special little snowflake.
Someone is going to cap that. Someone's going to cap that and send it in.
By someone, I know you mean me or you.
No, I'm not. I don't do the soundboard anymore because Skype is bugged and you can't hear the drops, so it kind of kills the whole point of doing drops, which is just to make you laugh or embarrassed. So, anyways, there's more stuff going on in Hearthstone. Broad got pretty chatty over on Reddit. If you may not have noticed if you didn't hit ladder in the past week, but when the last patch came, which changed, which made actually, oh my god, I completely forgot to put notes in here about the patch. But the biggest thing I think with the patch was the Murloc change.
I would argue the addition of like 30 new quests was the biggest change.
Okay. I find card interactions juicier than new quests. Although, yes, I do like all of the new quests that were added as well. But we'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to the specifics of the patch afterwards because it's already been that happened right after the show. So we didn't get all the good news right before the show, but still. Anyway, when the patch went live last week, it brought with it a bug that gave us win streaks after 2 wins, not 3. And people started losing their minds, thinking, "Oh my God! It's a change. It's intended. We get a win streak after 2." And Broad got on the horn on Twitter saying, "No, this is absolutely a bug." But this didn't stop folks from taking to Reddit and having a discussion about how that would make rank so much better, and it should be a feature, and they should just keep it that way. And Broad got in there and was delightfully open in his discussion of where their minds are as far as the ranked ladder is concerned. He said that Team 5 is currently discussing the fact that, for example, rank 18 players are higher ranked than 50% of the Hearthstone player base. And he said that number does not make you feel like you were in the top 50% and that is a missed opportunity. He also continued saying it'd be better if expectations and reality were matched in that regard.
That makes perfect sense because we get emails all the time from people, usually at the end of one month, beginning of the next one, saying, I saw the message that I'm rank 15 and I'm in the top 30%, and that doesn't sound like it makes any sense. And, is this right, or is this a glitch, or, how am I supposed to know how good I am at Hearthstone? And so I think he really hit the nail on the head there that, if you're at rank 18 and you're better than half of the other Hearthstone players, like, it doesn't feel that way. Most of the time people are like, oh, I'm rank 18, I'm terrible, like I'm in the bottom. And, so that definitely doesn't match up at all with the rank that you are versus how good you are versus other Hearthstone players.
Yeah, that's a discussion we've had very long talks about it over on Overwatchers because of all the changes that have been happening to the Overwatch ladder. And really what it comes down to is at the end of the day, it is all more or less placebo, but that is important. The gamification of your grind, of your ladder system is something that's important. It's something that's clearly important to Blizzard because I don't think any ladder system in any Blizzard game has been untouched. Mm-hmm. StarCraft's gone through many iterations. Overwatch hasn't even been out that long and it's gone through multiple iterations. And even Hearthstone, even though it hasn't been touched since beta, had its own iteration when we were in the closed testing phase of the game. But we haven't talked a lot. We used to hammer the ladder pretty hard on this show. It was a frequent topic of debate about how we.
Which I think, that's why we don't talk about it so much anymore, because I feel like we've just beaten it to death. Because that's
right.
Outside of no tournament mode, which I've also beaten to death. I think that the current ladder system is my biggest gripe with Hearthstone.
Yeah, I've calmed down on it to a certain degree because, like, for the longest time you heard me, I was just yelling, "Here's the StarCraft system. Here's the StarCraft system. Here's the StarCraft system." And the StarCraft system is flawed in its own way. I still do think it's a very well-made ladder system, but it has its own problems, and it doesn't necessarily work one-to-one with a card game like Hearthstone. StarCraft is a zero-sum game. You win or lose 100% based on your own personal skills and the decisions that you made. And while Hearthstone is still very much skill dependent, it's a card game. At the end of the day, there is RNG just in the cards you draw on top of cards that have RNG baked into them individually. So that's why last week Dill spent a good amount of time talking about your odds of actually getting a 12-win streak in Heroic Brawl, even if you're one of the best players in the world, because some of the best players in the world only average about a 60% win rate. So, because of that, I don't think one-to-one StarCraft Hearthstone works. What I do think one-to-one works is the league system, the designation of having these easy to identify with, having a sense of self-identity based on where you are placed. Saying I'm ranked 19, saying I'm ranked 18, it's not a good conversation piece.
Yeah, I don't think that and I believe somewhere, later on he talks about the buckets. And how big your bucket should be. And I think that that's kind of the problem is that, right now we essentially have buckets of players that are like, you're in a rank 19 bucket, then you're in a rank 18 bucket. And there's not a big enough difference between those two for them to give you an identity. So, like changing ranks and changing buckets doesn't feel rewarding at all.
Yeah, no, it got better when they added the rank chest. I still think the rank chest is the best thing to ever happen to the ladder in Hearthstone.
But even then, those rank chests don't really change too much in terms of rewards, except for if you're in like the 15 to 10 and then the 10 to 5, like they change based on like big buckets of 5. They don't change on, buckets of 1. So
right.
I think
I think it should be ranges, right? Like, because they're already focusing on these buckets or these ranges. Why not put a larger emphasis on that?
That's what I like. Just say like 20 to 25 is your bronze bucket, and then like 20 to 15 is your silver, and then 15 to 10 is your gold, and then platinum, diamond, legend.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it might not necessarily break down that nice. I feel like if you're in the top 50%, maybe gold is good. So maybe 18 is your cutoff for the beginning of gold, but find a way to do that.
Yeah.
Because since they added that in Overwatch, since they still have their ridiculous number system, but the ridiculous number system is shown in addition to your bronze through master system, which for a community, for you to have a sense of identity where you fall in your skill level, just works better. It's a better gamification of what is a grind, and I think that's important. And I find it so strange that Hearthstone has stayed away from that, because you think of, like, I'm going to get arty on you, Joss, but so bear with me. But think about just the art direction of Hearthstone, what it considers important for how it presents itself visually. It is very tactile. Everything looks like a surface. It looks like an object that was handcrafted, that was built. That's something you can touch, that you recognize. You recognize stone. You recognize leather. You recognize cloth. Why not do that in your rank? How is a game that puts that much emphasis on everything looking like it is made out of something and exists in some way or shape or form? How did they land on just numbers being their ladder?
Yeah,
that's the thing.
That is true.
It's a weird disconnect in Hearthstone's, I don't know, just their art direction that I find strange. I don't know. Anyways,
I know that I say this a lot, and I've taken some flack for it before, but I'm thinking that potentially, again, might just be something that grew out of the fact that they didn't know how big Hearthstone was going to be. They were kind of like, yeah, we'll just, try this out. Oh, what do you know? We're in alpha. People like to play against each other. People like to have some sort of a way to know how good they are based on other players. So, okay, shit, we need a ladder system. Okay, how are we going to do that? 1 to 25, go.
Wow, I'm gonna say that was a bit harsh.
Well,
Me,
I feel
yeah.
like maybe that's grown out of the fact that Team 5 was so small at the beginning and didn't realize that it was going to be a popular esport, that we're going to have millions of people playing, and that they just didn't know when building Hearthstone. So I think that we're seeing a lot of things now that are kind of just grew out of the fact that they didn't know when they built it in the beginning. So now all the things that the community wants are things that they're kind of like, oh man, okay, but that would take us right back to the coding drawing board. Like, how can we do this? So I think that maybe that's potentially part of, they just didn't put that much thought into the ladder in the first place. They had something that was working from a ranking player's perspective, but it just wasn't at the top of the list in terms of things like art design.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of pain points for you and I in Hearthstone stem from exactly that. That it was an experiment for Blizzard as a whole. At the ground level, it was built by a very small team, and that I'm sure a lot of that, it made it to the final code, and it's not as easy to make larger changes in the way that we would like to see it. And I think that the ladder is I do think that the ladder is an artifact of that. And then where I get harsh is, well, at this point, you're making money hand over fist. Do what you need to do to improve it. But honestly, I was really happy and pleased to see this level of candid response from Ben Brode. And I'm not deluded enough to say it's us that caused this level of open talk, but it's definitely what you and I have been hoping for, and now we're seeing it. And more of this, please. I love this.
This is what the community has been calling for, I think. And this is the kind of thing that now the community needs to not overreact over. Like they need to not take this as promises. They need to, just take this as hints into what Ben Brode and Team 5 are actually thinking when they're looking at these systems. So we need to be like, oh, okay, great. They are aware of this. Like, this is what you and I wanted, Garrett. Like, we want more insight into what they're thinking, regardless of what the outcome needs to be. So I think that if, we get a new ladder system or we don't, the point is here, we need to not rake Ben Brode over the coals, please.
Yes.
Be nice to him, community.
Allow us to have nice things, Reddit.
Yes.
Allow us to have nice things. Be responsible with the level of honesty we're actually finally getting from Team 5. Because he said here, quote, "We are reanalyzing the number of ranks, the number of stars per rank, the number of bonus stars given out at the start of the season, and other parts of the system." Nothing there is concrete, but it's actually information. It's actually giving us an idea of where they're thinking about heading, what they're thinking about making changes to. And it's okay if one or more of these things don't get changed, that they've landed on a different answer. But I at least feel satiated knowing that they're having a glimpse behind the curtain into their meetings, where their brains are at.
Mm-hmm. Knowing what they're looking at without actually knowing what they're going to do is fine.
Yeah. I want Blizzard as a whole, because this extends beyond just Team 5, to be more open with their uncertainties, to just talk openly about what they're thinking about doing, not necessarily what is already done in the pipeline coming down. Hope it's balanced.
Exactly. And I think that this is part of what I'm kind of hoping that, Reddit treats them nicely. And I wish we saw more of this in a more open, as opposed to hidden in little mentions and Reddit comments. I kind of wish they were just more open about this in general, because I feel like the more people that get their eyeballs on comments like this, then the more it's like crowdsourcing your game design ideas. Like, what if somebody's like, oh yeah, specifically to the number of stars per rank, I think that it would be better if, and then you fill in the blank on that one small part of a comment, and maybe you are the person who's thought of something that Blizzard hasn't thought of yet, and then it puts them off in another direction. And so by hiding these or burying these comments, not obviously through any fault of Brode's, I just wish that it was, if there was some sort of communication method that was a little bit more widespread, maybe not full on blog posts all the time, but there's got to be some way to communicate to people, even if it was like a half an hour Twitch stream, like a Q&A every couple of weeks or something that people knew that they could look forward to and feel like they are a part of something. Because then I just feel like if the information's out there, then you're much, much more likely to get really good feedback and really good ideas for free. Like, we are your free think tank, Blizzard. Use us.
Yeah, and Ben Brode was doing it for a while with his little videos, and I loved those videos. And Jeff Kaplan's been doing them frequently for Overwatch, and they've been fantastic. So I think more of that stuff is great. Blog posts are also great. I know Ixar is usually responsible for most of the blog posts, and I think they're really good. But I don't know, just more communication. We're finally getting it. So hats off to Team 5, because I was really happy to see this response in Reddit. So he also talked about some of the drawbacks, going too far could be, the issues that it could bring up. He said, if we inflate too many stars, the whole population ends up in the legend bucket, and then the entire system falls apart eventually. I think we all kind of understand that to some degree. Mm-hmm. But and then finally, he mentioned that they're developing simulation systems that let them predict what changes to the ladder would do to the population curve, which just fascinates the hell out of me, and I would love to see.
That sounds like the coolest job on Team 5 right now.
Yeah, I want to see
I'm a giant stat number geek. So.
I want to see a really nerdy video with their engineers explaining how this thing works. Because we got one a while back for Overwatch explaining how their servers worked and how they reconciled from the client side to the server side. And they did it with little cutout chibi Farahs taped to paper cups. And it was phenomenal. And I would love to see something like that for the simulation system. But so that they're working on that as well so that they can try and figure out what the solution is to improve ladder. And just, yay, I just want to cheer. Things are happening, Jocelyn.
Yeah, and I'm glad they're discussing ladder, because like I said, it's my biggest gripe with the game right now, and I understand that it's very, very tricky, and I think the tricky part of it is that it's so difficult to actually nail down what a player's skill is, and then like how to measure that skill over time. Because it's like, if I am, say, let's just say for the sake of argument, I am a legend player, then does that mean that I should always be allowed to be in the legend bucket even if I've taken an expansion off or something? Or like, how do you measure where I fall on the ladder and rate me against other people? Because I think right now it's leaning too far to a time grind and then not evaluating skill enough. But I don't really know how to change that. But yeah, a ladder based more closely on skill as opposed to just crazy grinding. But then at the same time, they also want to reward people who do play their game a lot. So like, they don't want you to be able to hit legend in 2 hours of playtime, and I understand that as well. So there does have to be a balance. I just think that it's not balanced right now. Yeah. It's too weighted towards time as opposed to skill, and I want to see that shift a little more to skill, which obviously is very difficult, and I'm glad that they're simulating things, because I'm sure that balance is very hard to strike, and like, making it less stars to get to legend is just taking away time as opposed to adding skill. So I think maybe even if it was still the same amount of time, but there was another way to measure skill somehow, then that would be a better system. But I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure either. And there's we could fill another hour, and we're already at an hour on the show just talking about the ways to do that. But yeah, that's a conversation that's had anytime we discuss ladder in any Blizzard game. We've been having this discussion forever on Heroes. We've been having this discussion forever on Overwatch, and we've been having it forever here in Hearthstone. I'm just glad to hear that they're working on it, and I'm really anxious to see what they would come up with. But let's return to our pin board, Jocelyn, and take a look at the patch that went live the day after we posted our last episode.
I have the link to the patch notes. I'll throw it in the chat room.
Cool. I'm looking at it right now as well. So we got new quests, which you are clearly very excited about. I'm excited as well. I was just a little more excited about the Murloc changes because I love seeing card interaction being tweaked, and I think in this case for the better. But we got 35 new quests added to the game.
The patch notes. Hello, patch notes, Steve. I try to have faith in you every time, and every time you let me down. The patch notes say many new daily quests have been added.
Hey, it's not inaccurate. But yeah, damn you, Steve. Whatever. That's what we have Hearthhead and Hearthpwn for.
I know.
I give up at this point. But yeah, we got 35 new quests, and I really love what they did with these quests. There's a 40 gold quest for every class for playing 30 of your specific class's cards. So like play 30 druid class cards, play 30 hunter class cards, etc., all the way through all the classes. There's play 50 just class, X class cards as well, which gives you 60 gold, so up from the 30. But then there's ones for beasts, there's ones for demons, murlocs, pirates, battlecry minions, death rattle minions, divine shield minions,
combo cards.
Yeah, combos, weapons, overload, like all of these quests that are around just not necessarily winning, which I love, but also not, I don't know, I think just not winning is great, but this is, you can play theme decks. This, like, oh, I got beasts. Let me try a beast deck. I never tried a beast deck before. And I really like that. I like that fun aspect. It is encouraging fun and creativity, I think, a little more than other quests have. Obviously.
Well, yeah, the quests were, for so long, they were just specifically about winning, except for the cast a certain number of spells, play a certain number of minions over and under a certain cost. So, I mean, but the majority of the quests that you would get would be quests that were win with priest or paladin, win with warlock or mage, like very, very much like you just have to win, which then led people to not experiment, not have fun. And this is much more along the lines of like, okay, we actually had an email today, didn't actually make it into our crazy game story, but we had an email today that was just about using or making an enrage deck and literally just throwing all the enrage minions in and then figuring out if that worked or not. Like, we haven't gotten an email about figuring out if something works or not in forever because people have been so min-maxy about Hearthstone decks and trying to find the very best thing. Almost every crazy game story email that we get is like, I was playing mid-range shaman, I was playing, death rattle hunter, I was playing insert meta deck here. And, it feels like there's been a lack of experimentation for quite a while now. So I love this. I think it's great. Like, people playing enrage warrior and enrage, insert other class here. It's cool. It's driving imagination, which is something that they haven't done, at least with quests, in a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Tavern Brawl was a step in that direction. I think these quests are another step as well. Mm-hmm. We also got new achievements, which I apparently glossed over. This is news to me right now, Jocelyn. I glossed over the fact that there were new achievements added. There was Return of the Hero, which is defeat 3 challengers, which gives you 3 packs. Ready for Action, which is play 30 cards in play mode, which gives you 3 packs. Back in the Game, which is to deal 100 damage to enemy heroes, which rewards 3 packs. And then...
These achievements, though, are they, because they're all, I think chat room said it's for returning players, and because all the names sound very much like back in the game. Like,
yeah.
Do you have to have a certain amount of time you haven't played in order to get those packs?
That's what I was trying to find, and I've checked Hearthhead, because they usually have that info, and it doesn't specify. It just says that it seems users need to have not played Hearthstone for many months. It doesn't specify. And then there's also Hail Champion for 1 pack, 2 packs, 3 packs, 4 packs, 5 packs, and 6 packs, which is which ties into our next piece of news, which is choosing your champion over at BlizzCon. But before we do that, let's talk about the Murloc change.
All right, what's the Murloc change, Garrett?
Murlocs no longer buff non-friendly Murlocs. All of the verbiage on our friendly Murloc cards now read your Murlocs or your other Murlocs. So mirror match won't be as frustrating now. I believe, wasn't just the last episode Dills was talking about playing Murloc against Murloc? Or was it 2 episodes ago?
I believe so. But at the same time, I think that might have been driven by, I believe there was a Murloc Paladin mirror match at the last last chance qualifier, I think. So, because I remember anyways, that there has been a Murloc mirror matchup in a kind of very high-end tournament stage very, very recently, because I remember watching it and thinking, that's perfect. Like, I love watching this. This reminds me of Freeze Mage on Freeze Mage, because they were thinking about like, okay, if I play that means that if my opponent gets anything first, that means that they're also going to get that one because it's Murlocs that died this game, and like buffing, and then even if he pulls that one, then it's going to buff his minions, is going to buff my minions, and then if I anyfin another time after that, how's that going to work out? And there's that extra level of math when Murlocs are buffing both sides of the board. So I actually thought it was kind of an unfortunate change, because I was kind of like, oh, they're taking a little bit of the complexity away from the mirror matchup. But I guess it was really complex. So maybe they thought that was too much for Hearthstone. I don't know. But,
Yeah, I mean, it was, and I guess I agree with you there. That is a really good point to bring up. But it also, who knows what's coming in the future. I throw that out there, even though all I can think of is Blade Flurry and how nothing came. but I guess we'll just have to see. Also, Jocelyn, the what they're calling a bug, even though they used to say it was not a bug, of Yogg-Saron not properly overloading has been fixed.
Yep. So he's that much more unplayable now. Like I said when we talked about the Yogg nerf, I think that the overload effect is enough to make a lot of cards that were on the positive side of playing Yogg-Saron, moving them over to the negative side, because there's a chance, if you have Garrett luck, that you could be totally overloaded for your next turn. So I feel like it's just swings his odds enough out of favor that this is probably a bigger nerf than dying. So I think, because we were still seeing Yogg get played. I mean, like we mentioned, I think episode after the nerfs, there was basically he kills himself after casting approximately 6 spells, and 6 spells was generally on the low end of what you needed in general to guarantee a board clear. So, generally you were supposed to, in a perfect world, cast between 6 to 10 spells to guarantee a board clear. So, like, he was still playable. But I think when a lot of those board clear spells now have the potential to overload you as well, I think that moves those spells out of the positive column into the negative column, and that's enough to make him less competitive, enough to be taken out of decks.
Yeah, I mean, you still see him play. But I mean, I have already not been playing him even before that was fixed, just because I really dislike his inconsistency. But I'm also the type of player that doesn't enjoy playing Tempo Mage because of that reason.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that was the bulk of the changes. There were some other things fixed, but you can check out the full patch notes. Not anywhere Hearthstone related. You have to go to fan sites because patch notes Steve. But,
yeah, I'm literally looking at the patch notes, and the patch notes don't even say anything about new achievements. So
yeah.
Thanks, Battle.net.
Well, let's move on to Choose Your Champion. Blizzard is letting us choose who we think will win the 2016 Hearthstone World Champion, and possibly win some packs in the process, Jocelyn. Basically, we get to log into our Battle.net account on the Play Hearthstone website and pick which of the 16 players we think are going to, be successful in the BlizzCon finals for HCT. I've already chosen mine. I chose Tice. Who did you choose?
I chose Tice as well.
Yeah!
Okay, so I had a couple of different choices that I was kind of waffling between. Obviously, Sidonia is from Canada, so I was kind of like, well, I should choose him. But then I was like, I've been a Tice fan for a while. He's a very consistent player. He's a very good player, and I think he can go very far. Probably actually win BlizzCon, so I thought that he was a really good actual competitive choice. Not to say that I think the Sidonia isn't a competitive choice, but he also qualified for BlizzCon a long time ago, so it's kind of hard to judge those first couple of qualifiers. Amnesiac is another one who qualified. I think he was our very first North American BlizzCon qualifier, and although he is a very good player, he's very young, and I don't know. I haven't seen him play too much in the last 4 to 6 months, so I don't really know. Versus I feel like Tice, even though he qualified early, he's still playing all the time. I still see his name everywhere. Like, he's consistently finishing high. So I felt like he was a really good choice. But the other one that I was toying with, and I know you guys are totally going to call North American bias here, but I don't know if you watched the last call, but BB Gun Gun, who won, is actually a very, very good player, to the point that he has coached a lot of the other names that we've heard in the past. So he reminds me a lot of Purple. So I thought that he might also be a really, really solid choice. So
yeah,
it was harder than, even though I landed on Tice, who seems like the obvious choice, it was a harder decision than I thought it was going to be.
I blindly just windmill slam Tice because he's been my favorite Hearthstone player really forever. It really just came down to he was the first player I saw bringing Shaman to tournaments way before Shaman was cool. But he's also just downright consistent and a good player, so I'm a big Tice fan. But hey, Jocelyn, do you like stats? Do you like numbers? Do you like math?
I love stats and numbers, although the person we're about to talk about, he's on a whole nother level of stat and number loving.
Yeah. So you may have heard us talk about Rational Pie, who is a fellow Angry Chicken listener and patron, frequently calls in to the patron hangouts, and came in second place in the Angriest Chicken Open last month. Very good Hearthstone player, very smart kid, and he is just a stats nut. He loves finding out odds and stats and playing with math. I am not, but we did get a couple of tweets last week of people being like, is there a way to figure out odds for, who we should pick, like, statistically? And I was just like, I know just the guy to ask.
We should actually also mention that if you are going to pick your champion, you need to literally go do it right now. If you are listening to the sound of my voice,
yep,
you are clearly listening live, which means it is October 25th.
Yep.
And you have to pick before midnight tonight Pacific time. So make sure that you head on over and log into battle.net to the Hearthstone site and pick your champion.
There's a second window, though.
Yeah, there is. So is this because, are they doing what they did last year at BlizzCon where they're playing a whole bunch of stuff ahead of time? Is this like your pick for the round robin?
Yes.
Or the rounds?
Yes.
The group stage
because
and
we're
then
getting
your pick for the finals?
The group stages start tomorrow, and they run through Sunday.
Right. So if you want to get your selection in for the group stages, then you have to do it by midnight tonight Pacific time.
Right now. So
don't miss it, guys.
If you got this on Wednesday, because you get it the morning of before you go to work, you were too late. You're going to have to wait till Halloween.
Sorry.
Yeah, the next selection window runs from Halloween until November 3rd. So,
which is the Thursday, and then BlizzCon, and all of the finals start on Friday.
Yep.
Oh, man, next Thursday. Oh, my God.
Anyways, if you want to check out Rational Pie's odds and many charts and how he explains how he came up with all these odds, you can go to amove.tv right now. It's one of the most recent posts on the website, playing the odds for BlizzCon 2016. Why Tice is the smart pick for world champion is the title of Tice's post. You
mean Pie's post?
Who did I say? Tice's? Yeah.
You
Sorry.
said Tice's post.
Brain slip. Pie took into account the tournament format, the group breakdown, the players' decks, Vicious Syndicate's data Reaper report, the two-step ban phase, and simulated player matchups using player bonuses that he assigned based on their Gosu Gamers rating. But then he also ran simulations without the Gosu Gamer rating bonus because not all players has been tracked. So there's obviously... It is a little insane to just, take this at face value and make your decision based off of that, because it is a card game and there's always a chance for an upset. There's always a chance for a bad draw and for a god draw. But damn, Pi put a lot of work into this, and it's mind blowing. And I'm glad that my emotional response of picking Tice is backed up by math.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's so much math here. The amount of work that went into this is just insane. So thank you so much to Rational Pie for putting this together, because it's crazy. And a lot of the players that I mentioned, for instance, BB Gun Gun is rated quite highly, even after Rational Pie gave all of my thoughts the actual stat backup. So I feel like you do, Garrett. At least, like I picked BB Gun Gun and Tice, and they seem to rate pretty highly from actual math.
Yeah,
not just Jocelyn thinks they're good.
Yeah, and if you look at player strength, like the which is I believe the third graph in his post, like it's really close, and it should be, because we're down to the top 16.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. Like, most of these players are neck and neck with their performances for the most part, and I think just about anyone is a safe pick. But definitely go check this out and support our buddy Pi. I saw him make the front page of the Hearthstone Reddit yesterday with this post, so congrats on that, dude.
Oh, nice. I didn't realize that. That's great.
Yep. Well, before we move on to some emails and wrap this show up, let's thank our patrons supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. Reminder, our call-in episode is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And guys, if you can't call in live, don't worry. You can leave comments. You can leave questions in the comments on the Patreon post. So go ahead and do that, and we'll make sure and include you if there's a lull in the calls. That is a terrible phrase to try and say in an English language. But thanks again to our patrons. Thanks to our Patreon producers, Declan H. and Peter Williams. But also thank you to the following specific patrons on this episode. Thank you to Timothy S., Ollie C., Michael, no last name was given, Steve M., Nick, Mick P. I don't like saying people's last name because in case I don't want to know.
It makes sense. It's just funny because you don't really want to say Nick M, but you don't really want to say Nick P. I liked your Nick McP.
Mick P. Mick. Yeah, it's a Mick P name. Christina, no last name given. Morgan M. and Michael O. Thank you so much, guys and gals, for supporting the show. We really do appreciate it. And we're moving towards our next goal, guys. If you've been listening for a while and you want to support the show, patreon.com/TAC is the best place to do that. Now, Joss, let's take an email or two and wrap this thing up.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello?
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails to tacpodcast@gmail.com. Our first one today comes to us from Chris, who writes, "You three funny cluckers."
Don't say that too quickly like I totally did in my head.
Nice. Do you guys think the point comes where Blizzard walks away from the pit of hatred and trolls that is our Hearthstone, aka the Hearthstone subreddit? Every time I have any faith in humanity, it gets snuffed out by going there, but it seems to be one of the only places to get official news and updates from Team 5. Nothing is good enough or fast enough for the group of people that seem to inhabit that group, and it's to the point I feel bad for Ben Brode when he does try to help someone out. No, because it's kind of like in your job description, not necessarily in Ben's, but it's definitely in the community team's job description to keep their finger on the pulse of the community, and the Hearthstone subreddit is part of it. And listen, we're harsh to the Hearthstone subreddit on this show, and honestly, at least I am harsh to Team 5 on this show. But we all have been at some point. But it's not all bad. There are glimmers of hope there.
I think that's key, is that, the Hearthstone subreddit is definitely not all bad. There's a lot of people there who legitimately love the game, and I feel like the internet in general obviously has its good points and its bad points. I think if you look at Blizzard's official forums, it's the same. If you look at their Twitter mentions, it's the same. So I feel like this just comes down to they have to try to sort the bad from the good, which is an awful, terrible job. And I really hope that they do have someone in between them and Reddit that's almost like a filter. And I hope that that person rotates through, because I don't think I could read Reddit top to bottom all of the time as my job.
I need to get one of those for thanking iTunes reviews.
But yeah, I think that there's a lot of potential good that comes out of Reddit, and like you said, we do give Reddit in general a hard time a lot, and I think that's just because it is one of the biggest collections of people on the internet, and whenever you get a big group of people together, there's going to be some bad apples. But I don't think that that's worth writing off a whole entire section of the community. And if you do like to have the Reddit type experience, then I would say maybe stay away from something like our Hearthstone, but maybe check out our TAC podcast, because our subreddit is a lot of, there's some cross posting, but there's a lot of information over there with a lot of people that listen to the show. And if you've ever spent any time in our Twitch chat, then you guys know that it's generally a very happy, positive place to be. And all of the fans of the Angry Chicken tend to congregate at the TAC podcast subreddit. So check that out. Or also there is the competitive Hearthstone subreddit, which is a lot of the negativity is just not there, because they are people who take Hearthstone as a game very seriously. So they will post a lot of the same information that you'll find on our Hearthstone, but they take a very competitive stance on a lot of that information. So it's not so much a gut reaction type of a place. It's like, okay, what does this mean for competitive Hearthstone, which they consider anyone rank 5 or higher. So if you do take Hearthstone seriously, and that's the kind of information that you're looking for, you'll pretty much find all the information that is pertinent to competitive players that has possibly been comments on Twitter or comments on our Hearthstone, usually gets put into that subreddit as well. So I suggest looking for more of the fringe groups if you find our Hearthstone to be too negative for your taste.
Well said. Damn, Joss.
Thank you.
I've got nothing to add. You killed it. Yeah, it's always. I think it's always risky to paint an entire community with the same brush. Our Hearthstone has definitely invoked my wrath before because, good God, some of the crap that ends up on there is inexcusable, in my opinion. But there's also plenty of good on there. It's just the nature of the upvote system. So something negative if negative fuel gets posted and the negative people see it, they're gonna upvote it and it's gonna be seen by more, and it's just a big negative dog pile. But the same thing happens for positivity, and yeah, you get what I call Dill said it last week. Your circle jerk threads. It's like Brian Kibler Appreciation Day. I love Brian Kibler. He doesn't need an appreciation post. The dude has so many viewers, so many downloads, so many views. Do we really go find someone else who actually needs the exposure, guys? Come on. But
maybe they just really love Brian Kibler, Garrett.
I love Brian Kibler too. Retweet him. Make it personal. Doesn't need a 500 comment thread. Anyways, tirade there. And that was just an example. It's happened for, everyone who everyone already knows the name of. But anyways, Joss, who's our final email from?
The final email here comes to us from Ross Tiger, who says, "Hello, exasperated feathered bipeds. I was wondering how important you think the mulligan step to the game of Hearthstone is, and whether Hearthstone's unique mulligan mechanic of choosing which cards to switch is important, or if another similar mechanic might work just as well, if not better. From my personal experience, I know of 2 others, but you may know of more. In Netrunner, you discard and redraw your whole hand, and he thinks that this is a standard way, which I believe, Garrett, this is also how Magic works, right? Except for you draw 1 less card every time you discard.
Correct.
I knew a Magic thing, guys!
Yep. You draw 7.
Nailed it.
If you take a mulligan, you draw 6. If you take another mulligan, you draw 5. If you take another mulligan, you draw 4. If you take another mulligan, well, you just played a standard game of Garrett in Magic.
And then Ross goes on to say, in Ashes, Rise of the Phoenixborn, you pick your own starting hand from your deck, and this could potentially significantly change Hearthstone's strategy if you can guarantee your first hand, so keep on clucking. We actually had a brawl that was very similar to what he's describing in Ashes. I can't remember the name of the brawl specifically, but it was basically not so much choosing your starting hand, but it was every card that you drew on each turn would have that mana cost. So you would draw a 1-drop, then you would draw a 2-drop, then a 3-drop, and so on. So it was a way to, that's way more control than normal because you were, guaranteeing that you would have something to play on each turn so you could build your deck accordingly. This would just be your starting hand. But I don't know, Garrett, specifically the way that Magic works with their mulligan, I think it is probably the point worth discussing here, because that wouldn't necessarily change Hearthstone as a whole. That's more kind of in line with what they're already doing. So do you think that one mulligan system is better than the other, as someone who's played both games extensively?
Depends on what you're trying to accomplish with the game. The Magic mulligan system is definitely more punishing than Hearthstone's. The fact that you get to say, well, I want that, but I don't want that, and you actually get to keep, because I've said that in Magic a million times, and it doesn't matter. If I'm in a mulligan, I have to throw everything back. Mm-hmm. Hearthstone's is the most forgiving Ashes sounds like the most forgiving because you could literally get to pick your starting hand, but Hearthstone's is probably the second most forgiving. I think that falls in between Ashes, which is the single most forgiving because you get to pick whatever the hell you want, and Magic, where you just have to, it's an all or nothing approach. And Hearthstone just falls in between that, where there is still the randomness of, well, I really don't want that, so I'm going to throw it back and just hope I get something better. But you're not guaranteed. But at least you had some agency in pruning your starting hand. I think I think Hearthstone's is great for Magic's. I wouldn't change it.
That's good. And we've talked before about how important the mulligan stage actually is to the game of Hearthstone, and how that's really the first thing that you should learn when learning to play a deck. You can have the idea of tempo, and it's very easy to kind of see, like, okay, on turn 3 I have a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and a 3-drop, and you can easily make that decision between, playing 2 cards or playing 1 card, and that's kind of very upfront. And even when you're starting a new deck, like, you realize that those are your choices. And versus the mulligan stage, where, if you're trying to learn a new deck, that's really what you should learn first. You should figure out what it is that you literally want to do on turn 1. You know, like what kind of cards do I need? What kind of cards do I need in each specific matchup? Like who am I facing? Okay, I see it's a Warlock. Do I think it's going to be like a Zoo or a Discard or a Reno? And if it's any of those three, you know, what does that mean for my strategy? So I feel like the mulligan stage is really the thing that you have to learn very first whenever you're picking up a new deck, because it impacts you so much going forward. If you throw back the wrong cards, then you have a chance of never drawing them again until you're on card number 30. So you really have to take that into consideration when you're doing your mulligan. So
Yeah.
I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think a brawl mode with Ash's mulligan mechanic specifically would be cool. It'd be interesting to play around with it. But I really like Hearthstone's mulligan system. I don't think I don't think I would want to mess with it. But I would certainly. I'm always down for trying new things, just maybe not permanent new things.
Well, it reminds me of poker, right? Because when you're playing poker, and not any kind of stud, but any kind of draw, when you're playing and you've got your hand and you could say like, okay, I don't want these 2 cards, give me 2 new cards, and you get a certain number of rounds depending on the style of poker that you're playing to basically build the best hand that you can. That's what Hearthstone's mulligan reminds me of.
Yeah. Yeah, and Hearthstone's already so tempo based. Like, God, if you could choose your starting hand every game, it'd be boring.
Yeah, I agree.
And yes, it would change depending on your matchup. Like if I saw Res Priest, I would keep Hex every frickin' time. But it's still it would get very, very stale very quick. And good God, mirror matchups. Trog, Totem Golem.
Well, yeah, and I think that maybe specifically that Shaman mirror matchup is a bad example. I think that there's a lot of other mirror matchups. Well, actually, maybe not even the Shaman mirror matchup, but I think that there's that would add, in a way, another level of strategy to the game, right? Like, if I think you're going to pick Tunnel Trog and you're going to pick Totem Golem, then what do I pick to play around that? And then you get into the thing that we were talking about, even with choosing decks in Conquest, where you know you're picking on that next level of strategy. Like, okay, if you think most people are going to bring deck A, the counter is deck B, you bring deck C because you're going to bring the counter to deck B. And, you know, like that at next level. And you could possibly do that with picking your own starting hands, because I'm sure that Ashes has the same sort of a system where you've got different classes that you're playing or different decks or whatever. So you're going to have situations where you're going to have mirror matches. So clearly this kind of a mulligan system does work, and it's not so straightforward as just both people then have the same starting hands. Obviously, there's a chance that you could, but then you also have the variance in what cards you're going to draw. So you're in the same starting place, but you could end up in very different places depending on the luck of your draw.
Yes. I just think also whatever your mulligan system is, should and probably will have a very large effect on the way just the game is made and the cards that are made, because stuff like Astral Communion, for example, would be kind of insane if you could, guarantee to have it.
Yeah, Bites for Two in the chat room is saying you could just pick Innervate, Astral Communion, and break the game.
Right.
Because then you'd have no cards left in your hand, so you wouldn't have a downside for Astral Communion, and you could just go.
Right, absolutely. So
yeah, you're right. It would limit the design space for sure.
Yeah, thinking back to that Shaman mirror match example, it's like whoever went second would have a leg up, because they would, Trog, Golem, coin, lightning bolt off the Trog. I'm ahead.
Yep.
And then how much do you game that? It's like, well, no, then I'm going to keep Lightning Storm and Thalnos.
Well, and that's what I mean.
I didn't get the coin.
So then you get to your next level strategy.
But at a certain point, very quickly, I feel like it would get figured out and become rather stale. In Hearthstone, I feel like if they were going to have that mulligan system of Ashes, they would need to be there from the get-go, and the game would have to be designed around it.
Yeah, and the other thing that we haven't really touched on is that Netrunner, Ashes, Magic all have potentially, I don't know because I'm not familiar with the games, but different sizes of starting hands. Given that Hearthstone has such a small size, I think that could also factor in. Like if you're throwing away 7 and then drawing 6 back in Magic, then you have more chances to get good stuff than you do if you're drawing only a few cards.
Yep.
Like you do in Hearthstone, right?
Yep.
Sorry, I forgot to mute. Sorry. Sorry.
No worries. It's totally fine. You're getting over being sick. Stop apologizing.
Okay.
How
I
dare
can't
you
help
be-
it. It's my Canadianism.
How dare you be a human? I'm so offended. But yeah, Ross, thanks for the email. Food for thought. But anyways, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode for the most part, Jocelyn, right?
Yeah, I mean, I cut some stuff out because I thought we were running really, really long, but then we sort of sped it up. So we're like at the hour and a half mark. So
Yeah, we're at
go
the,
team.
The goal of 90 minutes. Good job with your mid-show editing. Thanks again to our epic patrons. You guys, we really cannot thank you enough. You don't understand what a huge effect you have on our life. So thank you. And if you're out there and you want to support the show, check out patreon.com/TAC. Keep those iTunes reviews coming. The hangout, again, is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can't make it live and you are a patron, drop us a question in the comments section of the announcement for the Patreon hangout. Find more about this show and all of the other podcasts over at amove.tv or youtube.com/amovetv. Joss and I have brought Embrace the Spoilers back. So go check that out if you want to hear us talk about Westworld or support the Kickstarter that we're doing for that. What was that? bit.ly/backets. We also launched our World of Warcraft show this week on amove.tv. Look.
So much podcasting with Garrett, guys, you don't even understand.
Yeah, I don't think it hit me until today how much I'm going to have to talk to you in the beginning of a week.
I know, and we definitely front loaded the week too. But then, I mean, obviously we have Brawl episodes on Thursday too. But yeah, we've got the WoW show on Monday at noon. Then we have the WoW content that we've been doing where we've been streaming and running dungeons on Monday afternoon. Then we've got Embrace the Spoilers on Tuesday. Then we've got TAC on Tuesday. And then if we happen to reach our Kickstarter goal and end up doing Embrace the Spoilers Winter Movie Edition, that's going to be another one.
Yeah, well, hopefully,
and then the Brawl episodes on Thursdays.
there will hopefully only be a little bit of overlap with Westworld as far as that is concerned. But
Yep.
yeah, check that out. By the way, the WoW show is called For Azeroth, if you would like to check it out, where Joss and I talk all about World of Warcraft. New shows, hype, woo! Anyways, follow the show on Twitter at TAC Podcast. Joss, where can folks find you personally?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays. You can also find me right here on AMove TV every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we do The Gamers In, which is my general gaming podcast. You can find me on all the shows that I just mentioned with Garrett, and basically all those can be found at amove.tv.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter at Garrett Art, and everything else is at amove.tv. Check out Embrace the Spoilers. Check out For Azeroth. Those are the two new things. Go check that out. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done. Yes!
Ah!
And now stick around for the Gadgetzan Gazette report with Gerblin. Welcome to a special report from the Gadgetzan Gazette. The truth, mostly the truth, and honestly, the best we got. This week, the city built its first unbreakable bank. After several explosion-related delays, Goblin contractors finally completed construction on the new state-of-the-art First Bank of Gadgetzan building today. Spokesgoblins for the contracting firm say the explosions were simply part of contractually mandated break periods and no one important was seriously hurt. Despite the delays, the new structure is quite impressive. From its neon signs to its gold-plated columns, it reeks of class. In cooperation with the bank's new owners, the mayor's office provided a tour of the new financial buildings for press and parties with an interest in the project. Mayor Noggenfogger, who owns the contracting firm that built the bank, led the tour group, proudly pointing out each new security feature in turn. The revolving doors at the entrance feature a Kodo-proof cage and unhexable glass. The bank lobby, tastefully carpeted in orange and purple, also features anti-Kodo barriers at regular intervals. In addition, each teller station is equipped with a large, red, candy-like button that, when pressed, releases a burst of confetti. And also dispenses armed explosives from hidden alcoves in the ceiling. There's also not one, but two Sprocket Spring 5000 vault doors on a fuse locking system, protecting cavernous vaults with plenty of room for gold, arcane dust, and other valuables. Mayor Noggenfogger was quick to point out that each vault door is rated to withstand Kodo pressure exceeding several hundred tons, and, as an added bonus, have a chance to blow up when tampered with. Noggenfogger was quoted saying, "The previous bank was plagued by mismanagement and inadequate security. It was an easy target for filthy, unscrupulous, Kodo-loving bank robbers. Our economy is taking off like a rocket chicken, and Gadgetzan citizens need a secure place to store their valuables where only the deserving can get to them. Thanks to a hefty investment by the new owner, the first bank of Gadgetzan is a wonder of technology and a fitting centerpiece for our beautiful city. In fact, I declare this bank 110% unrobbable, and I can't wait to see the look on the faces of any poor saps who try." When asked why the mayor's office would be concerned about theft after repeatedly denying Gadgetzan's skyrocketing crime statistics in the past, the mayor deflected to his security detail. Quote, "Knuckles, would you be so kind as to escort this young lady outside? I think she wandered in off the street. Citizens can see the new building for themselves when the first bank of Gadgetzan opens to the public with a ribbon-cutting ceremony next week. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Crazy Smeed's Used Kodo Dealership, for today's news rundown. Don't forget, Crazy Smeed's Used Kodo Dealership. All Kodos, 99 gold down and 99 gold a month for 999 months. This has been your anchor, Gerblin. Now back to those chuckleheads at the Angry Chicken." I hope everyone enjoyed that. That was real dumb.
That was pretty much my reaction when Garrett sent it to me, and he's like, "I was thinking of including this in the show." I was like, "Oh no."